What is going on, everybody? I'm back today to talk about a movie that was released limited throughout the United States and finally became readily available everywhere, that I've been really looking forward to watching ever since I read some initial reviews from film festivals earlier in the year. And the first reason I was excited to watch this movie is because I'm a huge fan of Aubrey Plaza. I love Aubrey's work. I actually went to go see her in New York City perform Danny in the Deep Blue Sea. I think she's just a phenomenal actress who continues to just grow and grow as a performer, and everything I see her in, she's just so incredible. And aside from that, this movie is directed by Megan Park, who put out a movie a few years ago called The Fallout, starring Jenna Ortega, that I absolutely adored. I thought the movie was so well done. It was very intense emotionally, but I felt like all the emotional beats, it was handled in a really great way. And so I was looking forward to seeing what she was going to make next, knowing that this movie involved Aubrey Plaza, and the premise sounded absolutely ridiculous. So I was completely on board. And the movie I'm going to be discussing with you today is My Old Ass. My Old Ass is directed by Megan Park. An 18th birthday mushroom trip brings free-spirited Elliot face to face with her wisecracking 39-year-old self. But when Elliot's older self starts handing out warnings about what her younger self should and shouldn't do, Elliot realizes she has to rethink everything about family, love, and what's becoming a transformative summer. So, as I said, I was really excited to watch this movie, and I absolutely loved it. I thought this movie was beautiful. It was hilarious. It felt like it came from a very deeply personal place. And I love movies that have very raw and real emotionality to them. And this is one of those movies. I didn't feel like any of the scenes between characters felt artificial. All the emotion and the authenticity of the script really came through in all the performances. And obviously, when you think about the premise, you have to suspend your disbelief. It's a pretty wild concept. But once you get invested in it and you're a part of the story, it's so easy to stay along for the entire ride. And I'm really excited to tell you about it today. So at the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Elliot, played by Maisy Stella. We're introduced to her friend group early on, and we find out that she is about to go to college, and it is her birthday celebration, and her friends all decide to go out in the woods and do mushrooms. And so they do the mushrooms, and her two girlfriends both start tripping out. They're like falling over, dancing, doing all this, and she doesn't feel like anything is happening. Well, all of a sudden, someone walks onto their campsite and starts talking to her, and it's Aubrey Plaza, who we find out shortly after is playing the older version of Elliot. She starts talking to her about life and different things and starts to give her advice about life. And Elliot wakes up the next morning and is just like, what the heck is going on? And we find out that she lives with her family on this cranberry farm owned by her mother and father, and she lives there with her two brothers. And she loves her brothers, but one of her brothers, he's golfing. He wants to own the cranberry farm. There's kind of a separation there. Her younger brother, the two of them goof off, watch movies together, and she's seemingly close to both of her parents. Well, shortly after, we are introduced to Chad, played by Percy Hynes White, who is there over the summer working, and he takes an interest in Elliot really early on. But Elliot's older self keeps popping back up by texting her and calling her on her phone somehow. And she's like, is this me still tripping? What's going on? And she's very adamant about certain things, like spending more time with the family, not interacting with Chad, doing all of these different things. And the entirety of the movie is Elliot having conversations with her older self, and her older self giving her advice about life while she's just trying to navigate being a teenager and going off to college. So like I said, this movie is fantastic. And for starters, I want to talk about performances. I love Aubrey Plaza. I think she's phenomenal, and she's great in this movie for the screen time that she has. I feel like she gives a very dedicated and believable performance. She's funny as per usual. She eats up her screen time. I always think that she's great. But the two standouts in this movie for me are Maisy Stella, who plays the younger version of Elliot, and Percy Hynes White, who played Chad. I feel like their characters have so much personality, and anytime they're on screen together, the chemistry is great. And I really liked the actors that played her brother. The parents are great. Her friend group is fantastic. They just all feel like believable people, which makes the movie really easy to invest yourself into when the characters on screen feel believable as people. It's shot relatively well. The The musical choices fit the film, and it just kind of has a cozy vibe to it. Emotionally, there's a lot of push and pull throughout the film, but regardless of that, I feel like the movie, the best way to describe it is it feels kind of like a warm hug. It's just like comforting while you're watching it. And I think it's because it's coming from someone's very personal experience. I'm not sure how much lived experience this movie is based off of, but just the interpersonal relationships between family members and the conversation surrounding identity. So much of it feels like it has to come from some semblance of lived experience, which makes the movie feel very raw and authentic. And I love all of the different themes that this is exploring. One of them, very simply, is the lead character's sexuality. And she has defined as a lesbian her whole life, but she starts to take an interest in a boy and is like, well, maybe I'm bi or maybe I'm pansexual. And there's very open and authentic and real dialogue surrounding those feelings. And I love the way Megan approaches it with this movie and the open and vulnerable conversations that are had. I love seeing conversations about queer identity in film being done with such nuance and such beauty. And I think that it's handled really well here. There's also so much about personal relationships between parents and siblings, and how the main part of the film is like living in the moment and appreciating life while you can, and not doing so much looking forward or turning back and looking behind, but really trying to embrace every single moment that you have and care about those moments. And we don't only get that through Elliot's experience, but through conversations with her mother and different characters in the film kind of sharing their own perspective. It just really makes you think about life as a whole and how much time we waste worrying about things that we can't change, like whether or not the people around us are going to be there all the time, or where we're going to live in one particular moment or the other. It's like we can't control necessarily what is going to happen next, but where we are in that second and how we live those seconds is what we should appreciate. And I love that this movie was just such a fantastic look at just appreciating life and appreciating every moment that you have. And it made it so much more enjoyable because of the great performances. And it's a very simple slice of life movie that I think if you're into those coming of age slice of life movies, you're really going to like this a lot. And I highly recommend it. It was just a great experience seeing this in the theater. And I could easily see this being in one of my favorite movies of the year. So have you seen My Old Ass? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was wonderful. It's funny, it's heartwarming, it has great dramatic beats, and I think you should 100% check it out. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.